Hello everybody, I'm Charna Davis Wiese and welcome to UCF Profiles. Today, the business of business, how to educate entrepreneurs. Our guest is Dr. Cameron Ford, and Dr. Ford is from the UCF Technological Entrepreneurship Center, UCF Tech.
Nicely done.
I know, that was so hard. I think that this is so interesting and so cool because looking at the things that you offer, it's almost like, it feels to me almost like the quote-unquote trade school where you are actually teaching people how to go out and do this particular career and job, plus have the academics and the degree with it. It's something that we used to call it in the news business, news you could use. It's almost like lessons that you can use. Am I right about the feel I have for that?
Yeah, I was going to say it's even better than a trade school because we do have research faculty that are really at the cutting edge of what we have learned about innovation and entrepreneurship. There's a lot of really robust research that makes it a lot easier to succeed.
Right, the academics, the research, the background, the degree, plus the tools.
Right. So
how to go do it.
Right. So with our coursework, what we tend to have is courses that are kind of more academic, theoretical, kind of teach you the rules. I mean, what works, what doesn't work. Then we draw you through more professional kind of classes, I would call them, where you learn the tactics that entrepreneurs use, sort of the tricks of the trade, if you will. And those classes are, targeted more towards actually developing like a business plan or doing a quick pitch where we're having a competition on that. We're kind of helping to coach people on how to present their ideas. And it's the blending of the kind of scientific academic knowledge base and the professional practitioner knowledge base together that really, I think, brings the high impact into what we're doing.
This is offered everywhere. This is an unusual mix that you have, isn't it?
Well, entrepreneurship centers are very popular these days in most universities, which is sort of one of the reasons why the College of Business felt compelled to create one, because it's an excellent way to draw the business community towards the college. It gives us something to talk about, a shared interest, and so forth. It's also a great way for us to interact more with other programs on campus. The science and technology programs in particular we're targeting as potential partners for educational offerings. I have a bunch of students we'll talk about later that are in my class that are developing some really cool business proposals to commercialize UCF technology.
So that's how it started. That's where the idea came. It's let's take something that's popular and even make it better.
Yeah, we're trying to develop a version of one of these centers that really works well in the UCF environment and also contributes to the economic development in the region. And UCF is not a typical university. We're the 7th largest university in the country. We have the 2nd largest college of business in the country. I mean, we just, it's like the wild, wild west in some ways. We add 2,000 or 3,000 students every year. We've done this, I've been there, I think, 7 years now, or 8 years. We've gone from 26,000 students to 46,000 students.
It's amazing.
That's a whole other university.
Right.
You look at universities like, like Wake Forest or something like that, they have like 7,000 or 8,000 students. Our College of Business is that big.
And a lot of people stay here, and there's so many people coming here. This is a fast-growing community, and I imagine it's almost sometimes advantageous rather than go look for a job, make yourself your own job, make yourself your own business.
That's a great insight. I tell that to students all the time. It says, and I went to Penn State University, which is in the middle of Pennsylvania, which isn't a fast-growing state. The population's been very stable since the last couple of censuses, and State College, Pennsylvania, where Penn State is this little town. So people go to school there, and then they all leave. Right. People who go to UCF, most of them want to stick around. And so I tell students, there's just not enough really great jobs out there for all of you to have the kind of careers you want. So you really ought to consider creating a job.
So who are the entrepreneurs? I was starting to tell you a story. My oldest son, when the Trump shows started going on, he was maybe in 3rd or 4th grade, and he loves them. He absolutely adores them. And after watching them the first time, and I'd let him stay up, or we'd TiVo it or whatever, and I'd say, what is it? Do you want to be a millionaire? Do you want to have your own helicopter? And he says, no, it's the game. It is the game. It's the strategy. It's being creative. It's planning. And he actually went to a camp when he was in 4th, going to 5th grade, budding entrepreneurs, where he had to make a business plan and he had to create a business. And what he did is everybody was making these little things at home, bookmarks or whatever.
Right.
Well, he took my fudge recipe and he sold fudge on the campus. He made $30. He said, who wants a bookmark that you can make yourself? People want fudge. He called it Got Fudge. And I'm wondering, are entrepreneurs born? I'm sure they can be made, but is there a kind of personality or somebody that is really great to become an entrepreneur, a business person?
Yeah, anytime anybody asks me a question, is it, nature or nurture, or, is it this or that? I always say it's both. You have to consider everything. And some people have those kinds of goals that they're really interested in. They love the excitement. They love the idea of doing something different, of not being a joiner, somebody's going to, kind of make their own path and all that. You have to have a fairly thick skin, robust self-esteem and all that. But I think there's a lot to be said for kind of, especially, students coming into college, they don't really know what they want to do. They haven't had a lot of experiences. I think there's something to be said for kind of showing them a path and igniting their passion. We've been trying to create educational offerings that can hit students early, like in their sophomore year.
So you can just even give them the idea of where to go.
Kind of dip their toe in the water and see whether they, think this might be something they'd be interested in, and then we can feed them into more.
What kind of things? What kind of
programs.
things? Let's say I'm a UCF student. I'm kind of floundering. Let's say I'm one of my own kids, and my mom kept saying, "You be your own boss. You want to be your own boss." That's what I always tell my kids. But I don't know what to do, and I said, "Dr. Ford, what can I do? Where do I go?"
Okay, well, my advisor hat for a moment. If you're just a UCF student, you're not in the College of Business, we're going to offer next year for the first time a course that will be available to students all over the campus. Any undergraduate student can register for it. We just made this title real simple: How to Start a Business. It's going to be very
Sounds
practical.
Good. I'm signing up.
Yeah, it's a very practical course. It's meant to be just a very an introduction course. We're hoping to develop a minor that would be available for students in any major across campus. So if you're in music, or if you're in visual arts, or if you're in biology or whatever, there's a lot of different ways people spin businesses out of those professions. And quite honestly, I think everybody should have some business education, and I think this would be a great way to get people into that.
They probably could waste a lot of time just by not knowing the steps to take. A time that you could just, if you were given a course that says bing, 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 this is what you need to do, rather than, I filed the wrong papers, I didn't set this business up correctly. It probably saves a lot of time actually knowing which steps to take so you can actually focus on your business.
Yeah, it's not, the process of starting a business isn't super linear, so I'd like to think of it more as it's almost like you're training a musician, so like a great jazz improvisationalist, so they can they know how to play well, they've practiced, they know the skills, they like doing it, and if something goes wrong, like they make a mistake, they know how to recover from it and make it sound good. And I think that's a lot of what you're trying to get people to understand, is that launching a business isn't, there are some things you can learn, some skills that are important, some steps you can take, but you also have to be prepared that things aren't going to work the way you plan, and you need to know how to make adjustments on the fly.
What kind of things are coming out of this?
Well, now the Entrepreneurship Center has the label of Technological Entrepreneurship Center. For UCF is primarily a technology university. The original name of the university was Florida Technology University. So we wanted to create programs, especially at the graduate level, that really look at the ways we can take inventions out of the labs, help to wrap business plans around them, and then maybe help feed them into the UCF Technology Incubator, Research Park, the community, and so forth, and help to build what we like to call on campus an ecosystem here in the Central Florida region that starts with ideas that come out of science and technology labs, infuses them with business ideas, and then moves them forward to some of the other agencies we have that can help get businesses off the ground. preface my response with that because I work with the graduate students primarily in these science and technology programs, and I meet them up with MBAs, and it's really fun because they're kind of same planet, different worlds kind of thing, and they speak different languages, and it's fun to kind of watch how they work together. But I've had people from the Institute for Simulation and Training working on what's called mixed reality technology, where they use special software and head mount displays, they call them kind of like virtual reality glasses, to blend virtual imagery into your real field of vision. So we could have a virtual image of Abraham Lincoln right here while we're talking, and it's a really mind-blowing technology. It's still not quite ready for prime time yet, but it's got some amazing business potential. So we were working on that. We have people who are working in the biomolecular sciences area that are looking at developing alternatives to embryonic stem cells for treatment of various diseases. We have
unless you can get all these things out of the lab.
Right.
They're not going to do any good to anybody.
Yeah, and what's really kind of rewarding about getting the science and technology people involved is, if you've never been involved in business, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't really understand that there is, a lot of very robust kind of methodologies in business that really enhance your odds of success. So, trying to launch a business without really taking advantage of that knowledge is kind of silly.
Right,
so
and there's no way you can know that unless you try and fail, which there's nothing wrong with failure, but it's a lot more helpful if you kind of know the way to go to begin.
Yeah, we can make your batting average a lot higher, we think, by helping acquaint people with the business expertise we have. So, we're trying to wrap strong business cases around these things that'll appeal to investors and other people in the community that might want to get involved with the university on these kinds of things. By the way, businesses that spin out of universities like that are way more successful on average than your average business. They're, I forget the statistics, but they're, I think it's like 46 times more likely to get funded by venture capitalists. I think on average they produce something like 10 million in revenue annually and 83
Is that a question of having the tools or having the drive or both?
Well, if they're spinning out of the university, you have several advantages. One is you're launching your business based on cutting edge knowledge typically. You tend to have very highly skilled and very well trained people running the business. Your business may benefit from associations the university has with other, it's sort of a branding kind of thing. If people like the university and you're associated with the university, they're going to tend to think well of you too.
Right.
So it's easier to get people to pay attention to take you seriously when you're making presentations and trying to ask for money, investment and stuff like that. So it's we're really trying to help build that capacity for the university to educate science and technology students, get MBA students interested in working with those kinds of businesses and helping them get launched. And again, the incubator is a wonderful resource the community has to help facilitate moving those things into the community.
I was reading one of the problems people have is they want to go into the glamour businesses, the things that everybody wants to do, and everybody wants to, the artistic people want to be designers or whatever, but the less glamorous the business, probably the more chances you have of success. The ratchet makers, my sister says her most successful friend makes shopping bags. It's kind of grungy, but they love the fact that they are sending shopping bags all over the world. But it's not something that somebody who would go into college and say, I really want to make shopping bags.
Even though we have the word technological in our title of our center, we offer educational opportunities for anybody that wants to start a new business. Starting a karate studio or a pool supply store or a Chinese restaurant is obviously very different than trying to start a high growth venture based on cutting edge Florida Solar Energy Center solar panels, which is another one of our student projects. The challenges are very different. So we try to offer enough different kinds of classes and resources for people to be able to help people with all those different interests. But you're right, I think I just read that 95% of all new businesses that are launched are what they call replicants. They're the same kind of businesses you see as you drive around town.
Somebody
everywhere.
says, I can do that. I like the store and I can do that.
It's a franchise or some other, basically a knockoff of something that exists already. It's not a highly novel, high growth kind of oriented business.
So we were talking about the idea of going out and becoming an entrepreneur, having your own business, and there's that number that has been thrown around for many, many years. Oh, Aunt Sil says that 4 out of 5 businesses fail, but that's kind of, nobody really knows where that came from. And a business closing doesn't necessarily mean a business failure.
Right. Yeah. One of my colleagues we were talking about this the other day. That this number 80% is one that we're not exactly sure where that number came from. It persists in people's understanding of how the likelihood that entrepreneurs are going to succeed or not. But firms will get bought out and their name disappears, and that's not a failure. That's actually a big success. And also entrepreneurs may just decide to close their business, but they've made a lot of money and maybe they want to open a new business, or they've transferred ownership to somebody.
You said there's serial entrepreneurs, and that's kind of what they do.
Well, yeah. There's usually in that case the company will live. They'll start a business, then they'll sell it off to somebody, and then they'll go off and do something different. But yeah, the name of the company might disappear. So this is where the researchers come in. I mean, you look, trying to measure whether a firm has died or not turns out to be quite complicated.
Right. Or maybe they just get tired of it and they think, well, maybe this is not for me. I'll go back to working for somebody.
Right.
It could be that as well.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to distinguish the entrepreneur from the business. I mean, people can achieve a lot of financial and life goals in the process of starting businesses, working them for a while, and even if the business fails, it doesn't mean you'll never have another job or you'll never be able to start another company. Hopefully you're learning throughout that process and being a more capable person. You'll either be better as an employee somewhere, or you'll be better as somebody starting a business. I should also mention that when we try and tell students about our classes, we're not exclusively telling people that if you take our programs, you should be thinking about starting a business. Now, we're happy to have that happen, obviously, but it's excellent training for anybody who wants to work for a small business, which is, most companies are small, or if they want to work in a kind of more of a project-oriented environment. A lot of the large technology companies, the way they run a lot of their internal operations is by projects. So you're still pitching and justifying and managing, kind of small enterprises within a larger corporate entity. And so that's another good kind of, the entrepreneurship training we offer is a very good skill set for people involved in those kind of careers as well.
Right, and you touched a little bit on failure, and I think the fear of failure is probably one of the biggest obstacles to success, because I would doubt there are very many people around that haven't failed at something at some point and had to pick themselves up and learn, as you say, learn from it while you're going through it. You probably don't appreciate what a great thing that might be. But the fear of failure must be a big obstacle.
Yeah, one of the things I'm very excited to see is we're having some business plan competition things that we're doing. We have one kind of event where students get up and they just do a quick 2-minute presentation, a quick pitch we call it, in front of a panel of people from the business community. Well, if you're 20 years old or 24 years old, that's very intimidating to do that, and it's really rewarding to see so many students stepping up and taking on an experience like that. They're not typically getting course credit or anything for it. They're just doing it because they know it's a good experience, and we do have some small cash prizes they can win.
Small cash is very good for a college student. I remember those days.
Yeah, this big cash for them. And we have a business plan competition for a full-blown business plan, 15-minute presentations and so forth, and even more judges involved in a very, again, it's a very intimidating process. And it's really great to see so many students willing to step up and take that on, because you're right, it's scary. I look at them doing this stuff and I'm like, wow, I'm not sure I'd want to be up there doing this.
Glad it's them and not you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to teach them, but you guys, go up and do it.
And that's a really big part of it, that somebody delving into this may not understand, that you have to deal with people. You have to sell. You have to make your idea seem great. It doesn't matter how fabulous you've made your product or your plan, or if you can't if you can't communicate that
Yeah.
to someone, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah, one of the colleagues I work with at UCF is Kirsty Chadwick. She runs an agency we call the Venture Lab, and she likes to, she's a former tech entrepreneur herself with some renown here in the region, and she likes to talk about killing geek speak, because a lot of the business offerings that we're presenting to the community are very technical. It's based on cutting edge research, and I'll work with students a whole semester and still not really understand
what they're talking about.
Well, I get the gist of it, but the underlying software issues and other kinds of things I don't understand. But that's not important for the investor or for the customer. They just need to know that it works, that it solves a problem, and so forth.
And people are going to want it.
Yeah,
there's a market.
Yeah, and so you have to be able to articulate your benefits in a way that the person who's going to receive the benefits understands and can get excited about. And so standing up there and just telling about the functionality of your technology, people are like, well, that sounds great, but what's in it for me?
Is it time for lunch? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we work a lot on getting people to think about the benefits that their business offers, who they help, how they help, how they can deliver that help, how much that help's going to cost, and all this kind of stuff, so that they can talk, easily to a layperson. And really, even investors are I don't want to call them lay people because they tend to know a lot about the industries and stuff that you're working with. But again, they're not going to get bogged down in the details of how the technology works. They want to know just basically, does it work?
Does it work? Is it good? Is it
reliable? Can we,
Is it going to fly?
Right.
You talked about the research behind it, and what have you found in your research? What is the biggest problem, the biggest mistake that people make when they're venturing out? Is there one or many?
Yeah,
or a whole series?
I'm not quite trying to answer a question like that. We're very blessed to have a number of faculty in several different departments at UCF who are interested in various aspects of small business, new ventures, innovation, and so forth. I'm not quite sure what the biggest problem for entrepreneurs is, other than maybe just getting started. I mean, like I said, it's a very large and intimidating process.
That's what I was telling you. I've got these ideas and these things floating around my head, but that first step, it's kind of like I used to do rock climbing, and when you get up there and you're on the belay and you're ready to go down, is that first step is really frightening.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is maybe there's the commitment to action. But that's what's great about college. I mean, you can go in there and in a relatively, it's a learning environment, and it's developmental and it's supportive. And so you can go in and take classes, you learn a lot of what it takes to be successful. You learn what the basic, what the problem space is that you have to think about.
It's in a safety zone.
Yeah, you learn, one of the most important things I think people need to learn going through these classes is their limitations, what they're good at and the kind of help they're going to need to be successful. Because it's always a team effort when you're launching a new venture. But the classroom environment is one where people can, try things, take chances, test the waters, and nothing really bad's going to happen to them. They can see whether they like it, and then as they get through more and more stuff, we try and offer more realistic kinds of opportunities, like these competitions where they stand up and present to the same people that make decisions about real businesses all over town and throughout the state. And so by the time they're graduating, they're pretty road tested by then. We hope. They've had a lot of experiences. They've had a lot of time to think about whether this is something they'd be interested in doing, the kind of setting they'd like to do it in, and so forth. So we hope that we can get people to help develop businesses here with deep roots in the region that can help our economy improve.
So how'd you get here? I love to ask that to the people I talk to in the profile show, is when you were in middle school, or did you think, well, when I grow up, I really want to be a professor for entrepreneurship?
I wish it was that direct.
I love that it's not direct, because a lot of students watch and then they're faltering. They're thinking, I don't know what I want to be. But it's never not never, but oftentimes it's not a straight line, a straight path.
Yeah, I've been a professor for quite a while, so and I like my job. I like being a professor. But in terms of this entrepreneurship thing, I do research on creativity in organizational settings, and so not too far removed from entrepreneurship, but it's still pretty.
Can't
far
have one
removed.
without the other.
Yeah. And I just kind of had an accidental meeting with my dean in the coffee shop on campus, and he handed me a guy's business card, and it turned out to be a guy named Chris Stapleton that works over at the Institute for Simulation and Training. He does research over there with a number of other really excellent researchers around the UCF campus. And I got involved in an opportunity to work on this mixed reality technology I mentioned earlier with Canon Corporation. And it was a kick. I mean, it was just a lot of fun. I'm working with this really cutting edge stuff. I could see the potential for creativity and coming up with all sorts of different applications using this technology. They actually had a demonstration there that my daughter's first grade class came in and demonstrated. They still use pictures from when these kids were using this stuff. They basically put these headsets on. They would have fish swimming around in the air around them, and it was so cool. It's you don't think about things, but like adults, when they would use this technology, they would keep looking straight ahead, like they're watching TV.
Oh.
But there's content flying all around beside them, and you can talk to your friends because you're seeing them and these fish floating around.
That's just so cool.
And the kids, they did the whole thing. They're looking around, they're talking to each other. Just the difference between the kids and the adults using this technology was really a very interesting process. So I really got kind of hooked on the technology stuff and think about the business applications of it. And like I said previously, the entrepreneurship programs are very, very popular. My dean, Tom Keon's been very interested in developing this capacity since he's started the program or started his job at UCF. And wanting to contribute to economic development in the region. So the two things kind of, for me personally, kind of fit together is, I can kind of channel that interest I had into developing with my colleagues in my department courses, programs, and hopefully a community of researchers too, who can really give us a strong presence on campus and give people in the community and in other colleges a place to come to interact with the business faculty.
So a mixture of seeing the opportunity, taking the opportunity, being creative about it, and taking that first step.
Gee, you're making me sound like an entrepreneur here.
Yeah, it sounds like you wanted to talk about the website.
Oh, just in terms of the kinds of things we're going to have. People can learn a lot more about the center and what we're doing in the College of Business by looking at our website, which is going to hopefully go live in the next couple of days. It's www.tec for Technological Entrepreneurship Center.ucf.edu.
TEC.
Yeah.
.ucf.edu for all the entrepreneurs out there just waiting, and they can't wait to get their foot into the business world.
What you'll find there is a description of all the courses and things that we're offering. You'll see some of the faculty we have. You'll see the events that we run, the business plan competitions and so forth. And also you'll get acquainted with the other people we work with on campus at the incubator, the Office of Research, and so forth.
Sounds great. Dr. Ford, went by really too quickly. Thank you so much for joining us from the UCF Technological Entrepreneurship Center. I should get a job on TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm Charna Davis Wiese. We'll see you next time.